Are you tired of putting yourself last? Of taking care of everybody else's needs and powering through to meet the next set of impossible standards? In our fast-paced society, we lose touch with our intrinsic worth, with the ability to value ourselves for who we are right now. Instead of living life exhausted, frustrated, and disconnected from your authentic self, maybe it's time to put yourself back in the life you've worked so hard to create. Join radio host and life choreographer Laura Cheadle and learn how to build your dreams and live your sparkle using the 5 steps of flaunt. Find your fetish, laugh out loud, accept unconditionally, navigate the negative, and trust in your truth.
Welcome to Flaunt, Build Your Dreams and Live Your Sparkle. I'm Laura Cheadle, and today we are going to talk about a subject that has a tendency to dull our sparkle. We're going to talk about being a perfectionist. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but yeah, I fall into that category of being a perfectionist and getting down on myself and then spiraling into all of this self-judgment and limiting beliefs and blah, 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 blah. So today we are going to talk about how to detox from that. And as a guest, we are going to bring on Miss Petra Kolber, who recently wrote the book, Perfection Detox. Welcome to the show, Petra.
Laura, thank you so much for having me. Can I just say your energy is absolutely perfect. So it's a pleasure to be with you and with your audience today.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so let's just dive right in and start talking about your book. So, are you a perfectionist?
I like to call myself a recovering perfectionist because while I think, and people often ask me this, Laura, is like, is this something you can get over or fix? I think depending on how deep the root is, we can make friends with it. We can have strategies and ways to like kind of put our perfectionism in the backseat, but she will show up in different ways. So am I I say I'm a recovering perfectionist. On my good days, I would say she doesn't hold me back. But, you know, I think also as the stakes get bigger and as we get more courageous, we also have the idea of having to be perfect to fit in at the seat of the higher stakes table. I think it's an ongoing process, and one that when we can be aware of our inner chatter, of these false beliefs that might hold us back. So am I over it? No. Am I recovering? Yes.
And you're aware of it. I think awareness is probably a key.
I think whatever you're dealing with, Laura, you know this probably better than anyone. If we don't have awareness, how are we going to address it? So I've had many women especially say to me, oh, I bought this book for a friend of mine, not thinking I was a perfectionist. I just breezed through it. Oh my gosh, I saw myself on all the pages. So whether it's, you know, some people think of it as a lack of confidence. I call it the gap between where you are and where you want to be, not where you think you should be, but where your inner desires are calling you to be. And if there's a gap between, you know who you are and who you think you should be in the world, that's the heart space and the head space that I'm talking to.
Oh, and I love that you just brought that in right here and explained it that way, because for many of us, we are told how we should be and how we should look and what we're told if we should have kids and how many we should have and if we should stay home or if we should go back to work and what kind of a job and what we should look like and oh my gosh, the thigh gap and that we can't have cellulite and our hair and our nails but we might not really want that, huh?
Well, you know, I think we all want to be our best self, whatever that means. But what the best self and the perfect self are two very different things. And I come from a world, you know, for 30 years, my experience and my livelihood was in this world called fitness, which is so much good comes out of movement. But we did a lot of damage because in that world, we're selling this idea, if you get the 6-pack, you're going to be happy. If you get the perfect body, you're going to be happy. If you get into the bikini. And as you know, you might get the 6-pack and all of a sudden your life hasn't changed. You're like, darn it, I've starved myself. I haven't eaten a carb in 6 months. Why am I not happy? So it's this idea of recognizing our best self. It's going to mean different things to all of us. And the only person that can decide that is you. And it's really hard, as you know, Laura, to take the time to listen to what our inner voice is telling us versus, especially in this day and age of social media, you know, we without realizing it, we're comparing the truth of who we are to this highlight reel of what we see scrolling across our feeds. So there's nothing wrong in wanting to put on makeup and lose some weight, but if it's for the goal of being your best physical self so you can move into a life of your dreams, not looking a perfect 10 or a perfect whatever, because that's just, and trust me, the older you get, I don't have time to chase that. I'm sorry. And I think this is what's so interesting, Laura. When I was in the fitness world, by all standards looking in, partly because I was teaching a million classes a week, you couldn't help but be skinny. It wasn't, you know, anything I strived for. But even then, when I had the so-called in air tags, you know, hashtag perfect body, I never appreciated it. I never thought I had the dream bod and sort of the dream life. And actually, the older I get and the more imperfect my body becomes, the happier I am with who I am in the world. And the reason I wrote this book is because I don't want people to wait till 50, 55 to figure out what a gift this life is, you know?
Yes. Oh, and it is a gift. And I love that you said that, because there are people who have perfect components of their life. They might have the perfect body or the perfect house or the perfect relationship, and they're not happy because happiness isn't in the external, it's internal.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's perfect at what cost? Is it perfect at any cost? And you know, we might look from the outside looking in, you know, we're looking at, you know, social media or even our friends, and it looks from the outside and they might have, who knows, the perfect relationship. But that might have come at the cost of something else. Maybe their work life isn't where their ambition wanted it to be. Or maybe they have, from the outside looking in, the perfect career ladder. And then maybe we look at the areas of relationship and maybe that suffered. Or maybe our family life looks perfect, but our inner relationship has suffered. So there's these areas of our life, our work life, our relationship life, our personal life. And it's rare, because I have this a lot with guys. They often say, well, I'm doing, you know, I've got the perfect career track and I'm now, you know, working at, you know, all these hours and it works well for me. And I'm like, great. And are you in a relationship? Yeah. And how is that? It's great. Well, have you actually asked your partner how great it is? And if we really dive deep, there's probably some sense of, you know, lacking, or the other person not feeling as important as the work. And so it's rare that this idea of perfect, which is a false illusion anyway, but if we are achieving it, let's say, in one area of our life, it is my guess, not always the case, but most of the time there's another part of our personal life that is suffering, and not just suffering a little, but suffering a lot.
I love that you said that, because it brings in that component of balance. And like you said earlier, the fitness industry, there's amazing, wonderful things that come out of that, but there's damage too. And same thing with the idea of women in the workforce and getting equal pay. There's a lot of positive stuff around that, because absolutely we can choose to be in the workforce. Absolutely we should get equal pay. But there is also some damage, because it kind of presupposes that we can go out and bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan and be a perfect mom and be the perfect wife and look like an airbrushed model. And we can't do it all.
Yeah, I love it when people say, what do you think about this idea of balance? And I used to say it's like juggling balls, but a good friend of mine, Shannon Fable, actually, I liked her analogy better. She goes, it's spinning plates. And she goes, you know, we're spinning plates, and sometimes we know that there's one area of our life that plate begins to wobble, so we need to put more of our attention over there. Maybe it's my relationship with my husband. So I spin that plate for a little bit, and then all of a sudden the plate of my business life is kind of like about to teeter over. So I kind of, okay, put that over hold. And I really thought that was such a great analogy. Like, we're not going to be all things to everybody all of the time.
No.
And if we try and do that, we're going to be no things to everybody. And even if we are, we're going to be so miserable and so stretched thin. But this whole idea of spinning plates made such sense to me, that we do the best we can with what we have, and different parts of our life are going to take different parts of our attention, depending on where we need to place that attention, depending what's going on in our, you know, our partner's life, our kids' lives, our work life. And no one we can't dictate that, but we can spin those plates. And then also remember to spin the plate of radical self-care too. So we have the energy to continue spinning all these other plates that are going on in our life.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. I know you can relate. Right now I've received the final edits of my manuscript back, and I've got 2 weeks to get those in. So you're right, those other plates are not going to get attention right now, nor should they, because this is rising to the forefront and I need to get those edits done. But it doesn't mean I'm going to completely let everything else go. I may work out less. I may eat a little worse. I may not pay attention to my friends or my husband or my kids, but it's not letting them go. And it's okay.
Yeah. And congratulations. That's super exciting, a place to be. So congratulations for that. And again, yeah. And as long as if we're in relationships, your husband, your kids, we explain what's going on, and nobody who truly loves you, they want you to be the best author, the best speaker, the best podcaster that you possibly can be. And realizing that the sacrifice, again, I put that in air quotes, because it's not necessarily sacrifice, but when your children see you having so much joy from all these other areas of your life, you're teaching them so well, because then it's giving them permission to go for their dreams. And also letting them realize that there's no such thing as balance. And when we're trying to be this perfect lie, our kids don't know what they're seeing, but we are setting an example for the impossible, because kids don't listen to us, but they certainly watch us. So we need to really manage, if you are a mom or father, what silent subliminal messages we're selling and telling to our children when we expect them to be getting the perfect grades, being perfect on the basketball, all these extra school activities. So, and again, there's this world of great expectations, but how can we balance that with the reality of what life really means? So that means good times, not so good times, and sometimes just everything hits the fan.
Yes.
And it's survival times. But when you're teaching your kids that, they learn from what is real versus this highlight reel of comparison to what we think we should. There's what we do should all over ourselves, of what we think we should be doing to have a perfect, happy, joyful life.
Mm-hmm. Petra, that is just brilliant and beautiful, because you're absolutely right. It's not necessarily balance in the everyday. It's balance over the long haul. And I love that message. And for me, that feels free and that feels joyful, that I don't have to should all over myself, which is one of my favorites, or beat myself up if I, again, air quotes, mess up for a day or for a week. It's striving over the long haul to do what I want to do and to do what feels good and to bring that joy in. Joy is one of my favorite words. Let's talk about happiness and joy.
Go ahead. What do you want to know? I don't think you need to know much. I mean, you seem like an incredibly joyful person.
Oh, I am a joyful person, and that's one of the things that attracts me to you too. But you've probably noticed this as well. There's a lot of people out there who are not joyful. And I practiced law for 10 years, and let me tell you, there are a lot of non-joyful people, both attorneys and clients, in that profession as well as in the world. But we're all human. We're all trying to do our best. Why do you think some people just have a harder time being happy than others?
Well, that's such a great question. Some of it's genetic. I mean, some of it is we how predisposed are. I mean, this research is changing, but great research by Sonia Lubomirsky, who wrote an amazing book called The How of Happiness. And research in general is showing, and again, the whole biogenetics and everything that's changing. So the data might be already out of date, but they're saying on average, 50% of our happiness we have no control over. And so that is why I think it's important. And I'll go back to the story in a moment, but it's really important for us to say, it's not, are you happy or sad? It's not that do you have joy, you don't have joy, but what can you do today to be 2% more joyful, 2% happier in your life? Because our set point is different. So if I'm comparing my joy to Laura's joy or, to Susie's joy, I'm going to feel bad. And what happened, Laura, is when I started doing a lot of work around happiness,